Okay, so let's talk about why it's so hard once you reach an intermediate level in English or any other language. So, I'm gonna talk about the main reason, in my opinion. There are multiple reasons, of course, but I want to focus on the really big one, the one that really makes a difference um, in the process when you're a beginner or in intermediate learner. So I'm sure you felt it before. If you are already at an intermediate level, you probably felt the difference between when you first started learning English. Maybe not at the very beginning because you probably learned in high school in those terrible classes. So just ignore that. But maybe as an adult, whatever, when you started learning more seriously, it might have seemed like you were improving relatively quickly when you started dedicating time to learn English. But once you reach an intermediate level, this progress seems to slow down a lot. And right now, I'm learning Italian, as I mentioned in the last episode, and I started from scratch, from zero, and it seems like I'm learning a ton of things right now. But I know that once I reach an intermediate level in Italian, I will also this progress slow down a lot. It's gonna happen to me. So I'm just enjoying the beginning stages when it's really fun and I feel like I'm learning a lot. So I'm sure a lot of you have felt this before and you might wonder why. Well, the main reason why is, in my opinion, is because of the frequency of the words that you're seeing, that you're hearing or reading. So the 100 most common words in English, they come up, they appear much more frequently than the next 100 words or the next 1000 words or whatever. So, why is that important? So, the words that are the most common in a language like English are very common. You can't construct many sentences without these words. So they show up over and over and over again. And all types of sentences, it doesn't matter what the subject is, who's talking, where the person is from, these words are going to show up time and time again from the first day that you start learning English. So when you first start, you're gonna see these common words again and again, and you're gonna learn them pretty quickly because they are repeated just over and over again, and that helps you to learn them fast. They become essential words for you. So, for example, the word the in English, that's an extremely common word, one of the most common words, and you can't really say much at all without that word. That word is everywhere. So you probably learn the word the very quickly without even trying. What's another example? Maybe the word and or the word because. These are function words that are so incredibly necessary to the language that they show up in many sentences. so you're gonna learn them no matter what. In English, when we say the phrase no matter what, we're saying with no exception. It's definitely gonna happen. So you're gonna learn words like and the and because no matter what. You can't get very far without those words. So this is great because when we first start learning a language, these words show up time and time again, and you learn them really quickly, and you quickly go from 0 words to 100 words or whatever, because you've seen those words so many times, you've gotten so much repetition with those words. So that means that you can go from 0 to a high beginner or low intermediate level relatively quickly, because you are gonna establish the basic of English pretty quickly, as long as you practice, as long as you dedicate some time and energy to this. And you're going to establish this basic with the foundation of the common words, right? If you have those 100 common words or 200 small common words in English, you're gonna have some foundation to build upon, and that's great. However, once you reach that high beginner level or that low intermediate level, probably what's gonna happen is that you already have those common words. They are already in your brain, and now you don't have many other really common words that are new for you. So the words that are new now are words that are less common, much less common. So they aren't going to show up very often. You're going to get a lot of repetition and exposure to those words. So for example, let's take the word frame. This is that things where you put a picture so that you can hang it on the wall or put it on your desk. Is that square or rectangular thing around the picture? That's the frame. So that's something that a lot of us or most of us have in our houses. It's a pretty common object if you think about it, right? A picture frame, that's something you see everywhere. However, do you really hear that word every day? Absolutely not. Do you even hear that word once a week or even once a month? Probably not, unless you're someone who works with pictures and frames. You probably don't even hear that word more than once a month. So it's gonna be a lot harder for you to remember the word frame than it will be to remember the words, because that's because of the frequency of these words. So once you're at this intermediate level and you have the basis, everything that is new or that isn't very familiar to you is gonna show up and then go away, and you don't know when you're gonna see it again, unfortunately. So you see a word and then you try to memorize that word, okay, frame, and then you don't see that word again for 2 months, and then by that time you've already forgotten what it means, and then it shows up again and you think that words look familiar, but I don't remember what it means, and then you have to look it up again. This happened to me all the time. It happens to me constantly, and it's very, very frustrating because many times you even Recognize the words and say, hey, I remember learning this word. I remember looking up the meaning, but I still don't remember what it means. And because of that, you have to look it up again, and you're probably going to forget it again. And so, this is just a reality. Once you reach an intermediate level, not going to see all of these new words very frequently, so it's going to feel like you're making much less progress. You're not learning as much as you did when you first started. You're not going to understand a lot of things because a lot of words will be said that you don't know well yet. Maybe you've heard them before, but you haven't heard them repeated hundreds or thousands of times like you have with the words the and, for, or because, etc. So progress is gonna seem very slow, and you're going to be improving as long as you keep on practicing, because of course you're still solidifying the basics. To solidify something means that you established it with more strength, right? You'll still be solidifying the basic, and you'll still be getting that exposure to new words and phrases, but it will be very slow. You won't get as much repetition, so it will take you a lot longer to learn these other words. And it won't seem like you're improving. You are, like I mentioned, but it seems much slower. And so that's not very fun, obviously. But that's kind of reality of languages. And I've even seen, I can't verify if it's true or not, but I think it's not. If it's not true, it's probably pretty close to the truth, and that is that the 100 most frequent words in English make up 50% of all of what you will read in English. When I use the phrase verb makeup in this context, I'm saying that they comprise, right? They comprise 50% of all written English. So imagine that the 100 most frequent words in English will be about 50% of everything that you see when you read, and maybe when you hear people speak English. So that means that all the other thousands and thousands of words in English are only that other 50%. So you can see how infrequent those other words are going to be when you are learning English, right?